I'll start by explaining my work, because without understanding what I do, you won't understand why what happened was so frightening. I draw forensic portraits. Not art. Not life drawing. I work with police departments and investigative agencies. They describe suspects, victims, or missing persons, and I reconstruct faces using pencil and software. 20 years in the field, thousands of faces passing through my hands. The faces of the living, the faces of the dead, the faces of those not yet found. I never meet these people. I only draw them. My name is Grace. I'm 42 years old, working independently from a small studio in my Chicago apartment. And in 20 years I've learned how not to think about what lies behind each face. That's the essential skill in this work. Separating yourself from the story, looking only at the lines, the proportions, the shapes. A face is geometry. I do geometry. Until subject number 47. For each case I number the faces in sequence. Not by name, not by case file, only by number. A way to keep from being pulled into their stories. Subject number 47 arrived on a Wednesday in February, forwarded by email from the Illinois State Police, with a brief description. Unidentified female victim, estimated 30 to 40 years of age, found in a forested area outside the city, facial reconstruction requested to assist with identification. No photographs. Only a written description from the forensic specialist. Skull shape, cheekbone structure, distances between facial landmarks. My most common kind of work. Reconstructing a face from skeletal remains is something I do more often than anything else, and it's the most difficult. I opened the description file and began sketching. The first 2 hours were mechanical, placing the bone landmarks, building the framework, calculating proportions. I worked in silence as always, coffee cup beside the desk, window looking out at the gray Chicago February. Then I began adding tissue to the framework. This is the art of it, the part where 20 years of experience and trained intuition guides the hand. The face began to form under the pencil. The jawline. The cheekbones. The brow. I stopped. I looked down at the page. I knew this face. Not vague familiarity. Clear, immediate recognition, the way you recognize someone you've known for years when you see their photograph. That jawline, those cheekbones, the way the outer corners of the brows naturally curved downward. I stood up from the desk and walked to the bathroom. I looked in the mirror. The face I was drawing was my face. I stood in front of the mirror for a long time. Then I went back to the desk and looked at the sketch. I picked up the technical description and reread every line. Skull shape, orbital spacing, cheekbone width. I compared it to the sketch. A match. Everything matched. The sketch built from that bone data, completed according to my standard process, would produce a face resembling mine. I told myself this was coincidence. Human faces share enormous structural overlap. I had drawn thousands of faces. The probability of one resembling mine wasn't zero. I called the detective assigned to the case. His name was in the email, Detective Roy, Springfield office. I asked for more information about the victim. "We don't have much," he said. "Remains found last month. Estimated between 6 and 12 months since death. No personal effects. No teeth available for matching. Waiting on DNA but nothing to compare it against if this person isn't in the system. Any distinguishing characteristics?" I asked. "Identifying markers?" Detective Roy paused. "There is one thing," he said, his voice shifting slightly. "We haven't released it publicly." Another pause. "The right wrist shows an old healed fracture. The type commonly seen in artists or people who do a lot of fine manual work. The scaphoid bone, fractured through repetitive stress." I looked down at my right wrist. I fractured my right wrist at 23, during my final year of art school. The scaphoid. Fractured through overwork on a final project. I said nothing to Detective Roy. I thanked him and ended the call. I sat in the studio and looked at the unfinished sketch. My first thought, the practical thought from the person accustomed to working with evidence and facts, was that someone was setting me up. Someone who knew my facial measurements, knew my wrist injury history, and had fabricated a case to send to me. But the request had come from an official state police email address. Detective Roy had a badge number, searchable in the system. The case was on record. My second thought, the one I tried to push away but couldn't, was that these were my bones. Not present me. Some future version of me or some version of me in something I had no language for. And somehow I was being asked to reconstruct my own face from my own remains. I stood up and went outside. I needed air. I needed daylight. I needed distance between me and that sketch. I walked 3 blocks in the February Chicago wind, hands in my pockets trying to think systematically. 2 possibilities. 1. Coincidence, impossible to explain but theoretically possible. 2. This was actually me, and if so, I needed to know more. I went back and called Detective Roy again. I need to know more about the location where the remains were found, I said. Why? His voice changed, more guarded. I understood. The question sounded strange coming from a portrait artist. I can sometimes do better work with context, I said. Not entirely a lie. Context occasionally informed my decisions about facial features. Detective Roy told me the location. Starved Rock Forest, the southwest outskirts of Chicago, approximately 2 hours from the city. I knew that forest. I had been there once, the previous autumn, alone on a landscape painting trip. I remembered the tall oaks, the light filtering through the canopy, the smell of wet earth after rain. Whereabouts in the forest specifically? I asked. Detective Roy described it. Approximately 300 meters north of the main trail, near a dry creek bed under a fallen oak. I remembered that tree. I remembered it because I had sat against it to eat lunch during my autumn visit. I put the phone down and sat still for a very long time. I didn't finish the sketch that day. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in the dark trying to separate what I knew to be true, specific, verifiable facts from what I was frightening myself with. True, the bone description matched my facial structure. True, the wrist fracture matched. True, the location where the remains were found was a place I had sat 11 months earlier. All of these were true and all could be explained by coincidence. Human skeletal structure has enormous overlap. Scaphoid fractures aren't rare. That forest wasn't visited by me alone, but all of them at once. I fell asleep close to dawn and dreamed, which rarely happens to me. I almost never remember dreams. But this dream I remembered in precise detail. I was sitting at my drawing desk. The unfinished sketch of subject number 47 in front of me. And in the dream, my hand picked up the pencil and continued drawing, not because I chose to, but because the hand moved on its own. The face in the sketch completed itself. The eyes, the nose, the mouth. And when it was finished, when that face looked up from the page with pencil-drawn eyes, it opened its mouth and said in my own voice, "Don't finish the drawing." I woke up. I called my closest friend, a woman named Diane, a psychologist, the only person I trusted enough to tell this to without fear of being dismissed. I told her everything. The bone description, the wrist fracture, the oak tree, the dream. Diane listened and then said, "Grace, I need you to hear me carefully." I'm listening. There's a phenomenon in psychology called apophenia, the brain's tendency to find and create meaningful patterns from random information. You're working with an unidentified face. Your brain is trying to assign an identity to it and finding the most familiar face available to you, your own. That's psychology, not the supernatural. The wrist fracture. The scaphoid is the second most commonly fractured bone in the wrist. Millions of people have fractured it. The oak tree. Starved Rock has thousands of oak trees. You visited once. There's a reasonable probability you passed near that area. I sat in silence. "Grace," Diane said more gently, "this is work you've done for 20 years. You draw dead people. Sometimes that affects the artist in ways that aren't predictable. Rest. Pass this case to someone else." What Diane said was completely reasonable. I knew that. But I didn't pass the case to someone else. I sat before the unfinished sketch the next morning and thought about the dream. Don't finish the drawing. If this was truly something more than coincidence, if there was some reason, even one I couldn't understand, why this drawing existed, then there were 2 directions. 1, finish it. Send it in. Let the police use it to find the identity of the woman in the forest. Do my job. 2, don't finish it. follow the warning in the dream, refuse the case. But if I refused, the woman in that forest would remain forever unidentified. No family notified. No answers for whoever was waiting. I picked up the pencil. I began finishing the drawing. The eyes first. I worked slowly, carefully, each line deliberate. 20 years in the movement of the wrist. The face formed under my hand, more detailed, more real, sharper with each stroke. And when I finished the eyes and looked down at the page, I understood why the dream had warned me not to do this. Not because the face was mine, but because it wasn't. The completed face looking up from the page was not my face. Close. Very close. The same jawline, the same cheekbones, the same brow. But the eyes I had drawn according to the technical description of orbital spacing and socket depth, were not my eyes. They were my sister's eyes. Anna, 38 years old, living in Portland. The only woman in the world with the same facial bone structure as me because we had the same parents. I looked at the drawing and the full weight of it hit me all at once like water breaking through. The woman in Starved Rock Forest was not some future version of me or some parallel dimension version of me or anything supernatural. It was my sister, Anna. The person I hadn't been able to reach since September of last year, when she said she needed space, needed time alone, and I had respected that because Anna was like that. She would disappear for a while and come back. This time she hadn't come back. And I hadn't called anyone. Hadn't filed a missing person report. Hadn't done anything. Because I thought she needed space. September. 6 to 12 months. Remains found in January. I picked up the phone. My hands were shaking for the first time since I had opened the case email. I called Detective Roy. "You remember me?" I said when he answered. "Grace, the forensic artist on the unidentified victim at Starved Rock." "I remember. Is the drawing finished?" "It's finished. But I need to ask you something before I send it." I closed my eyes. "The DNA, you said there was nothing to compare it against if she's not in the system." "That's right. Can I provide a comparison sample?" My voice was steadier than I expected. "I have reason to believe the woman may be related to me." A long silence on the line. "Miss Grace," Detective Roy said slowly, "I need you to explain that to me. The DNA results took 3 weeks. 3 weeks during which I didn't draw. Didn't work. I only sat in the studio and looked at the completed sketch on the desk and waited for what I had known since the moment I looked into the eyes in the drawing. The results confirmed it. Anna, 38 years old. My sister. I'm not telling this story to talk about the grief of losing her. That grief is mine and I don't want to place it here. I'm telling it because there is a question I will never have an answer to and will carry to the end of my life. Over 20 years I drew thousands of faces. I never recognized any of them. Not an acquaintance, not family, not once in 20 years. Until case number 47. I was the only artist in Illinois trained to do this type of work from skeletal remains. Not every case like this came to me, but that case came to me. Someone, or something, made certain that the woman in Starved Rock Forest would be drawn by the one person in the world who could recognize her. I don't know what to call that. I only know that if I had listened to the dream, if I had put down the pencil, returned the case, not finished the drawing, Anna would have remained forever unidentified in a police file. And no one would have known she was there. No one would have come to bring her home.